All right, folks, welcome back into another edition of the High School Huddle, your one-stop shop for everything and all things Section 5 sports. I'm AJ Feldman. He's Carl Jones. Thad Brown lurking in the background with Carl here at the office. And Carl, we made it through. The bow ties stayed in one piece. Both of us did as well. Nothing crazy. We made it through the weekend, and boy, was it a big one.
Man, it was a good one. I know the boys was a little different, but for the girls' games, they were all close. Like, for those at home, I pull out the camera. You know, you would like to pull it out in the second half, late third quarter. That's exactly how it worked out for most of the game. Actually, all of the games, to be quite frank with you. It was a good day. Shout out to Finger Lakes Community College for their hospitality there. Had me a nice little table, nice right next to the student section, right in front of the bench. Good angle right there. They took care of us all day long. Good venue, good vibes, good everything. The ladies on the floor did their thing as well. I know the Blue Cross did their thing as well with the hospitality too.
Yeah, for those who don't know, these games basically go every 2 hours. So what we do is in a perfect world, we shoot the second half of a game and we take the first half to write our articles. We edit our video. We write out what we're going to say. So it worked out perfectly throughout the weekend. A really fun weekend of basketball. Before we get into the games real quick, two things. First of all, we do have Tom Prince from WNY Athletics coming on the show in just a little bit. He's going to preview all of the big school matchups in the Buffalo versus Rochester Far West Regional, Section 5 versus Section 6. Always some great insight and analysis from there, so that'll be coming up in just a little bit. However, we do have to get to our fantasy draft, which is coming down to the wire. The High School Huddle crew reigning supreme once again. Both the Iglesias coming up a little bit short. Carl and myself currently tied for the lead. We each had two champions, a second place finisher, and a semifinalist. I had Lions and Fairport move on to the regional round. Carl had Avon and it's escaping me. Aquinas girls. His first round pick, which was questioned by just about everybody on the set, came through for them. So it's going down to some tiebreakers. It'll depend on who is going to have their teams go the furthest in the regional round. So we each have two teams left. We do have a eighth tiebreaker, which we picked the crossover matchups this week. Carl had the better week of picking. It was that girls game, Dundee Bradford beating Bloomfield. There was a difference there. So if nothing else happens, Carl's going to be our champion. So I've got the Lions need to come through with me, but it's close here, Carl.
It's close, and I'm not about to count my chickens just yet. I know how this basketball thing work, and 15-point leads, poof, gone. So you know what? When the clock hits 0-0, that's when I start celebrating. But right now, I'm still sweating, and I'm not gonna get too excited just yet.
We thank everyone for taking an interest in this fantasy draft. It was a really fun time. Fun to hear everybody get a good kick out of it. It was, I believe, one of, if not our most viewed and listened to episodes. So we thank the people for that. But let's get right into the games that happened Friday and Saturday. We'll start over on the boys' side of things at Blue Cross Arena. Start with AAA. Friday night, UPrep taking down Franklin. Jermel Cotton leading the way with 24 points, 4 threes in the first half, and 2 dunks in the second half. So really could do it all. And Carl, this UPrep team, we talked about AAA where basically anybody could win. And UPrep was one of those teams that we highlighted, we circled, we're not talking about UPrep a lot during the season, but they played a really tough schedule. They were seasoned coming into this bracket, and they came up clutch with just really some aggressive play, some physical play, and they really disrupted Franklin throughout this one.
I only saw them one time this year, and it was the Athena game where they literally put a scare in them and down to the wire. And I couldn't really tell the top player. When you said Jermel Cotton was the MVP, I'm like, I don't know if I can recall him playing, but that goes to show you how good of a team that is. The fact that their best player, someone else stepped up in the game against Athena, who was the top-ranked team in AA at the time. So shout out to the Griffins for getting it done. I mean, you did a story on Gavin White, the high jumper. He's doing his thing in the game. He had 12 points in that outing as well. So UPrep. In a bracket that we were like, oh, Aquinas, y'all gonna run with this. Never mind, Fairport. Oh, maybe Frank. UPrep is a team that raises the brick when everyone else, unfortunately, has to look up at them.
Yeah, and then moving to AA, the Saturday night finale. Really the premier matchup. You had Victor, the defending state champs, versus Athena, the number 1 team in the state, came into this one undefeated. Victor comes out on top 70-61, where there a little bit of controversy, a little bit of a weird game. So here's kind of the situation here. It was back and forth. Athena got out to I believe it was Athena got out to a good lead. Then Victor came back, or either vice versa. I can't exactly recall. But either way, second half, it was close. It was tight. Athena up 49-40 or 47-45. Connor Rozier gets out in fast break, makes an and one. He's hyped up. He's pumped up. Referee's calling for a technical. He kind of turns over to one of the Victor players, maybe says something, maybe just, stares him down. They call him for a technical, and that was a big momentum shift in that game. Garrett Clare makes the 2 technical free throws, and then they score the next 11 points, a 13-0 run in all, with Garrett Clare scoring or assisting on every single one of those baskets. That turned a 49-45 game into a 58-49 game. In that run, Ozier had to go to the bench. He had 4 fouls. He briefly went to the bench. Corey Reeves got 4th foul, 5th foul really quickly. Some ill-advised fouls there that sent him to the bench. And people want to talk about, this game changing on the technical fouls, the refs deciding this one. And I'll just say this. Victor had a technical foul in the 3rd quarter as well. And, one team reacted to it one way and Athena reacted to it another way. Victor went on a 13-0 run after the technical Athena had. Athena did use that technical to go on a little bit of run, but I looked it up. It was something like 8-6, 9-6, something like that, where, Victor has been there before. They had, been on that deep state run before. They won their state championship last year. And this was just a thing of, they both had a kind of a tough call go against them, and Victor didn't let it unravel them, and that's why they were raising the brick at the end.
I mean, you called it. You said this Victor team was playing well heading into the sectional title game, and Cam Ryan coming back. I believe Garrett Clare was out for a couple weeks during the tail end of the regular season. This team clicking all together, and this isn't just like some, just a well-oiled machine. Like, no, they actually got some guys. Like Nick Leonard, I believe, put up 20 and 10 in that game. Like Garrett Clare is a real ball player. Griffin Hopkins, he may not always put up 20, but when he scored, his highlights are crazy. Like crossovers, floaters, 3-pointers, like all that good type of stuff. Cam Ryan is a fine player in his own right. But Victor, I mean, they got healthy at the right time, started clicking, and Athena just didn't have one more 4th quarter comeback in, and they ran out of the juice and the magic of their 4th quarter comebacks. But Blue Devils once again showing that AA runs through them.
Yeah, and these teams are really making it difficult on us to pick our Primetime Elite Awards Large School Player of the Year, because UPrep and Victor, they're both kind of, teams by committee. So it's going to be tough to figure out what the heck we're going to do. We're going to have to see what goes on at states. Don't have time to get to every single matchup. Couple more things I want to touch on. Wayne coming up clutch with a big win against East, really handling some relentless pressure by the Eagles down the stretch. And then down in Class C, Byron Burgeon taking down Alexander 52-43. Notable for 2 reasons. One I want to point out. Braden Chambry, their big man, just a stud down low. We've talked about J.J. Johnson of Lions, who did get the better of him in that crossover matchup, but Chambry really impressed me there. And I also want to point out their head coach, Roxanne Noeth, becoming the first woman to lead a boys basketball team to a sectional title. Never been done before in Section 5 history. I talked to her after the game, and really just, I was talking to Paul Gotham after the fact from Pick and Splinters. A quote machine, just some great insight as to the history. This was the first title for the Byron Burgeon boys team. She was on the 1984 team that won a sectional title for the girls. She was on the JV team, called up to varsity, and she wanted to downplay the achievement of, being a woman and coaching a boys basketball team. But she did say, like, little girls, at the store or whatever, coming up to her, like, saying it's so cool. There's a teacher at the school who has a daughter. So a really fun story there. Byron Burgeon, like I mentioned, their season did come to an end last night in the crossover game, but a really fun story there for the Bees.
Definitely. She really tried to hammer on the fact, like, listen, I don't think of myself as a woman coaching the boys basketball team. I just think of myself as a basketball coach. It kind of spoke volume to how she views her job and her role as the Byron Burgeon boys coach. But nonetheless, her role, cool achievement, It's unfortunate their season is over with now, but you talked to her after the game, the emotion that she had dealing with some other things, and how she kind of broke down at the end of the game. It's a cool achievement nonetheless, and the fact that it's never been done, I mean, that puts her in a little rarefied air. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, her father recently passing away, so she got a little emotional about that. They're tearing down the gym. They're making a new gym, so this was the last team that would ever play there. They ended up raising a brick, so a fun game, a fun story there for Byron Burgeon. And like you mentioned, Carl, on the girls' side of things, close games, every single one that weekend. Just kind of talk about what stood out to you from that weekend of action.
Yeah, I'll just rattle them off really quick. Fairport gets their 7th sectional title. They took down Arcadia Olympia in the AAA first year. That's been done. And then obviously I got to talk about girls AA. We got chalk in the title game between Victor and Hilton. The game was intense. I know it was only 38-33. Neither team could buy a bucket in the second half. It's like if someone made one shot, it acted like the whole gym erupted. Like that's how crazy it was at one point. But Mallory Heiss did her thing. It was her and Devin Livingston going at it. Devin Livingston drew the assignment early on, pressing her from full court. For those at home who don't know, Devin Livingston is a really, really darn good lacrosse player, Division I commit. I believe she's going to Maryland next fall. So she's a very, very good athlete. Basketball's not her first sport, but you really can't tell with how hard she plays. And Mallory was a little irritated. They were getting a little chippy. They had to stop the game a couple times. Refs were like, cool out. They're like, we going at it. No bad blood or anything, but it was just really high level competitive hoops that you really appreciate to see on that level. Mallory got the best of them at the end with a nice little kick out 3-pointer I forget the young woman's name if I'm gonna get her right now because she hit a nice jumper that put them out in front. Elena Graziano hit a 3 to kind of put Hilton out in front a little bit, but nonetheless, really good game that we wanted to see who will come out on top on this tough classification, and the Lady Cadets who got it done.
Yeah, and that classification really going to prepare them for the state tournament, which we're going to get into in just a little bit with Tom Prince. But yeah, Mallory High is leading them to that sectional title. I just want to say I was high on Hilton all year long as well. So, hey, we go out to these games a lot. It's a good thing we pick up a few things.
For sure. Aquinas taking down Sutherland 43-41. I mean, Aquinas is led by, a bunch of kids who are supposed to be playing on JV. Like, they're really, really young. Lauren Green is young. AJ Orr is young as well. They're just a really, really young team. Kind of showed at the end with how they let Sutherland back in the game a little bit, but nonetheless, they're raising a sectional title banner and a brick, so they don't care about nothing that I got to say. And then finishing up in Class B, Hornell taking down Dansville. In Class C, Bloomfield took down East Rochester by 10. That might have been the biggest deficit of the weekend. Dunny Bradford coming out on top, and then Elba taking it down Finney in Class D. Great weekend of ball. No buzzer beaters like that we're going to hear about in Section 6 a little bit later, but just good ball, and I can't complain about that.
No, it was a fun weekend of action. The build-up certainly lived up to the hype. And that leads us to a really fun week of regional action. Like we mentioned, we're now going to bring on Tom Prince from WNY Athletics. We're going to talk about the 3 biggest classifications in each gender, of course, this year, with the other classification being added. We don't want to take up too much of Tom's time and talk about everything, but a great job previewing all these weekends matchups. If you're going out to one of these games, I strongly recommend listening to it, figuring out what you want to be looking for, what you want to be watching for. We get into a little bit of small school talk as well, but Tom Prince from WNY Athletics, let's take you to that interview right now. And here is the aforementioned Tom Prince from WNY Athletics. He covers boys basketball, girls basketball, every single sport. The folks over there at WNY Athletics like no other. Once again, we appreciate you for coming on our show. Tom, it's regionals week. It's an exciting time.
You got to be excited. Come on, this is the time of the year. This is now the beginning of the state tournament. It's time to get pumped.
So Section 6's best is taking on Section 5's this weekend. This time around, it is the boys playing in Buffalo at Buff State. The girls are going down to Canandaigua in the Rochester area at Finger Lakes Community College. We'll get right to it because we got a lot to go with. We're going to start with the AAA region, AAA classification. We'll start with the boys. UPrep in Niagara Falls. They're going to get us underway Friday at 8:15, the finale of the Friday night games. Niagara Falls, no stranger to this stage. They have won 16 of the last 24 sectional titles. Last year, they fell to Victor in the regional round. Tell me a little about this Niagara Falls team. What makes them different than some of the other great teams they've had in the past?
So this is a very different team. You're going to see that it could be a multitude of players that could be the guys that are the game of the day. It's not that one player that you're looking for. This team will look to full court press you from the time the game begins to the time the game ends. They will be all about defense and taking their defense, turning it into offense. They'll be led by Nick Estelle, Ephraim Strong, Omarion Rollins, John Strong, and Trey Gale. And Trey Gale may be a last name you remember, as his older brother right now plays for Ohio State. And this team, if you look at, which is a great example, this will be part 2, UPrep in Niagara Falls, with Niagara Falls winning the first game 58-41. But take a look at what happened in that game as far as points go. Trey Gale goes for 20 in that game. If he gets hot from three-point land, watch out. He can do things from beyond the arc right there. John Strong is 14. He's come on, was real good early in the season, coming on again here late in the season. And then Michael Taylor, which is a name we haven't really talked about yet, had 10 points in that game. And I'll tell you, you just said 3 different names right there that I just said to you guys, but we didn't talk about Estelle. We didn't talk about Ephraim Strong. We didn't talk about Omarion Rollins. Every one of these guys could have that game. It is a true team atmosphere where anybody can step up at any time.
Yeah, in this Class AAA that was introduced here in New York State, it's wonky in a lot of brackets and a lot of regions. Section 6 only had 2 teams. They took down Lancaster 73-43. But it seems like they made a concerted effort this season to schedule a really tough schedule, and it's a schedule playing a lot of teams from Section 5, from different areas, from different states. They actually went 6-0 against Section 5 teams this season. They beat Victor, they beat Bishop Kearney, they beat UPrep, Rochester Academy, Franklin McQuaid, 6 really strong teams that they were able to take down. Talk a little bit about the schedule that they played and how this kind of prepared them for what they're trying to do here at the state tournament.
They have done something we haven't seen in Section 6 before. They went in an independent schedule this year. They came out of, in essence, out of their league, which was the Niagara Frontier League, or what is known as the NFL League over here. They came out of that league, played independent, and took on any comer. And they really took a schedule on that was one of the best schedules in Section 6. But I'm going to tell you, probably was one of the best schedules in New York State. Their goal was to do exactly what we're talking about. Get ready for the state run. And this is exactly what it got them prepared for, as we're about to talk about the Far West Regionals.
Yeah, and let's go over to the girls' side right now. Fairport up against Lancaster. This will be at 6 p.m. on Friday. And listen, there's so many ways you can go about games in the Far West Regionals, but you can't talk about this Lancaster squad without Madison Lewis. For those at home who are not aware of her, she is ranked 14th in all of America. Not New York, not Buffalo, Northeast, Maddie Francis, excuse me, I'm sorry. Amazing ball player. For those who haven't seen her before, what kind of player are we going to watch this weekend?
In her last game, she tried putting one down, just to let you guys know. She just missed the dunk inside there, the last game that just happened at Buff State in her sectional final game. She has got ups. Here's a great example of the game that she's got. 29 points per game, 13.2 rebounds per game, 3 blocks per game, 5 assists per game, almost 6 steals per game. She can do just about anything on the court. You want her to play point? Fine. You want her to play center? Fine. You want her to run up and down the court? Fine. She can do every aspect of the game and do it well.
Now, selfishly, I just want to know, in your time of covering Western New York athletics, is she top 5, 3, 10, like that you've seen come through? Because the stats that we're looking at, and she's just a junior, this is kind of unheard of for a basketball player in this area.
Yes and no. I mean, her athletic ability is unbelievable. But if you remember, just last year alone, Gretchen Dolan from Williamsville South is now playing on Illinois. Clara Strack of Hamburg is now playing on Virginia Tech, a ranked team in the country, and getting her minutes out there. We've got Shea Chesky, who played for St. Mary's of Lancaster, who's playing for Penn State, one of the top scorers in the Big Ten right now. So we really have seen, as far as women's basketball goes, some great players already come through here, and she ranks right up with the top of them, and she's going to do something special, not only to finish her high school career out, but on the next wave as far as she goes into the next level of basketball.
Well, Section 5 will get a chance to witness that special play right there Friday, 6 p.m., as AJ alluded to earlier, at the Finger Lakes Community College.
Yeah,
and the other player on that team, there's another player to watch out for, McKenna Corcoran on this team. She's a Division I volleyball commit is what she is. So another commit you're talking about here from the Division I level. She averages 7.14 points per game, but she also does 9.2 rebounds per game. She's the one that could be the difference maker to allow Madison Francis to do other things on the court.
Fairport is certainly going to have their hands full with that duo. Obviously, girls AAA, a bit of a down year in Section 5. Fairport coming into this game for a losing record. So we'll see what they can do. However, we go over to the boys' side in AA, and we've got two teams that can sure as heck go. This game's going to be a great one. Victor versus Jamestown. This one closing things off Saturday night at Buffalo State College. Victor ranked 13th in the state. Jamestown ranked 23rd in the state. Victor, of course, the defending sectional champs. And this is a Jamestown team that has been here before in recent years. Last year, they lost to Niagara Falls in the sectional title game. They get out of each other's classifications for this year, I believe. What is Jamestown doing down the stretch? I know that they had a big game in that crossover matchup, overtime winner over Health Sciences to advance here to the Far West Regionals.
So they had absolutely a tough stretch to just be able to get this win. First of all, they beat Clarence in round 1. Then they have to take on Orchard Park that defeated them twice already during the season. They win that game at Buff State. They then take on Lockport, get the win, and then you saw Health Sciences was a thriller, as this one could have gone either way at any point, and they win that one in overtime. Their players that you're going to need to watch out for are Jaden Johnson, that's your big scorer. Dominic Gonzalez, he's the one that's going to get hot from the outside. Look for him from the wings to get that shot. If he gets hot, it opens up those lanes for Jaden Johnson. Bishop Butts and Elijah Farmer, they're your guys down low that may not have the 20 points per game, but again, do a lot of damage for this Jamestown team, especially from the rebounding standpoint, and can easily put some points up on the board.
Yeah, I was looking at some of their stats so far this year. They're averaging about 7 threes per game as a whole, but in that game against Health Sciences, I've only got them down as 1 3 made in the entire game. So tell me a little bit about the styles they like to play. We always talk about on this show how styles make fight. You know, it seems like they can air it out from distance when they need to, but it seems like that Health Sciences game was just a kind of a physical, down low type of game there.
Well, remember, Health Sciences has got one of the best guards in Western New York in Amir Moy. So when he can absolutely not only play offensively with the best of them, but you've got him as a guard up front being able to do the defensive side of things also. So when he gets up there and has to do the defense, he's going to help stop a lot of those 3 balls that were going up there. So what happens, I felt like you're talking about Jaden Johnson and Amir Moy were 2 guards that can almost, they're going to get their points, but in essence cancel each other out right there. So this was the opportunity where they had to come up big down low, and it was a battle down low in the paint for points for the guards going into the paint, and as well as the bigs having to do what they had to do. Bishop Butts was one of the guys who comes up big in the game against Health Sciences, and a guy that we talked about is that one to watch out for because he can really make a play here.
Victor peaking at the right time as well, the defending state champs. That should be a good one. Jamestown also did have a Section 5 game this year. They beat Franklin 75-70, the AAA runner-up here from Section 5. That was in December. So should be a good one to close things out on Saturday. And on the girls' side in AA, we've got a good one to close things out over at Finger Lakes Community College.
Ooh, good one indeed, AJ. Hilton up against Starport. Hilton, for my money, came out of the toughest classification in all New York this year, the Class AA bracket in Section 5. But then you look over at Starport, 21-1 Their only loss was Cardinal O'Hara, which, as we all know, and looking at the state rankings, that's a pretty good team, to say the least, here in New York State. But then how they got here is most interesting to me. You look up Star Point, and their last game is the number one thing that comes up. A buzzer beater, 0.5 seconds left on the clock. Talk me through that game right there and how insane it was.
Clarence is a great team, right? Probably one of the, and they played earlier in the year, but it was the first game of the year. So you could see both teams absolutely coming into their own as things went on. But this was a back and forth game that happened that was there. And it was great because we actually looked at the replay 15, 20 times down at the media table right there. And you could see when she let that ball go, it had to have been 2 inches out of her hand with that. It was 0.5 seconds left on the clock. She gets it and turns and throws the ball up. We stop it as the red goes on the backboard, and you could see it's that much out of her hand at this point. Shot goes, they win, and everyone goes absolutely crazy from Star Point that was there.
I can't imagine seeing something like that, especially with that much time, little time left on the clock. But also looking at the Star Point roster, the stats aren't really, too eye-popping, right? It looks like a balanced attack. Is it more of a, by committee approach, or is there one player that they really rely on when things get tough down the stretch?
It's a by committee. In fact, remember how we talked about Niagara Falls, that they're going to press you all game on the boys' side? Guess what? That's exactly what they're going to do on this side of the ball. Star Point will come out and press you. They will look to get those turnovers. Take a look at Sophia Walizewski. She has 6 steals a game alone. That tells you something right there, how effective they are inside the press. Their average margin of victory this year, 23.72 points per game, and that's with the 40-point loss that's in there.
I think that's a pretty good team. I'm not really that great in math, but I think you win by that much, that especially here in AA, that's the sign of a good team. Once again, the only loss was the Cardinal O'Hara, which is a really, really, really darn good team. Their first sectional title, by the way, Star Point, since 1995, so they're playing with a little bit of history here. Once again, a matchup between Hilton, third-ranked team in the state, Star Point, 8th, and as we've talked about before, down in Class A on the boys' side, another good matchup that will sure be a good one on the court.
Little fun thing just to tell you about that Star Point one. Millville actually is teammates with Mallory Heiss of Hilton on their travel AAU team for XGen. So it'll be a fun matchup. They'll know each other and know each other's game very well.
Oh, I know that's going to be a fun one. I know they're going to be barking at each other the entire game. Yeah, that'll be a fun one to see for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure the text messages in the group chat are already heating up in advance for this game.
Good point right there.
So we will head over to Class A on the boys' side of things. Wayne versus Williamsville South, Saturday at 2:45 at Buff State. Wayne has been shooting up the state rankings with their impressive Class A run. They are 5th in the state, Williamsville South at 12th. And for Will South, a big win in that sectional final, taking down Amherst, their rivals. The first time in their last 7 meetings, I believe, that they came away with the win, their first title since 2016. Tell me about that sectional championship game and just the emotions and what it took for Will South to get that done, beating out their rivals in the sectional finals.
Well, we call that the Battle of Main Street is what we call it, because they're right down the road from each other, literally within just miles from each other down the road of Main Street. And it was a very physical game, which is exactly what Williamsville South wants. They want to play physical. Again, you're going to talk about the stars on this team: Carter Lemke, right? Nate Wilemski, John Opfer, Michael Munzer, Noah Red. They're all different players in this one that can step up big. And I'll tell you, I actually got a chance to watch Will South play against teams that are much bigger than they are. Guys that had 6'6", 6'7" guys that were out there, and they'll use their strength to be able to get guys out of the paint and do things there, and to be able to help them be effective as they try to make a run in this game. It'll be about physical. They can shoot the ball, and they're going to get points from all over the place, as they got 5 guys that are either 9 points per game or higher as far as what they average out there. And you can see they really do it as a team type basketball.
Yeah, when you look at Wayne, Cam Blankenberg has really kind of emerged down the stretch as just a sophomore. 6'4", 6'5". He can handle the pressure. He can, he can shoot. He can dunk if he gets in an open lane. You mentioned it a little bit. Just how have they been able to deal with some of the bigger players, the bigger teams? Kind of take them down committee.
That's what it is. You'll see the guys down low. Michael Munster's going to lead the way. He's one of the bigs that are going to go down low. He's got a younger brother, Sean Munster, that's going to come out and do the same exact thing. These guys are going to do everything they can to keep you out of the paint. They're going to get physical. And if it's one of those games where you say, the refs are letting them play out there and they're not calling every single foul, that's the type of game Williamsville South wants, so they can get into a very physical matchup. And then when it comes time to score, they got the guys that are very athletic, and you'll see them come from the wings and be able to put some shots down from three-point land or inside in the paint.
Yeah, and they got there to the regionals by taking down Olean by 23 points in that crossover game. Is that just kind of a situation where A2 is a little bit down compared to Will South's bracket, or were they just really firing all cylinders in that crossover game?
It was a little bit of both is what it is. Olean is a perennial powerhouse team. They were obviously up. This whole divisions from AAA to AA has really screwed up some teams in some divisions that are out there, as you probably already seen. Teams that are Bs are now AAs. Teams that were, As are AAAs. It's very confusing. So what happens is there weren't a lot of changes inside the what you played in your seasonal conference. So because of that, some of these teams never really got a chance to play some of the same competition. And here, Olean had a rough year going into the year and really came on strong at the very end. But I think they just took on a Will South team that was very, very hot at the time. It came off one of their biggest wins of the season when they beat Amherst.
So that game will be Saturday at 2:45. Two great teams in Class A. And on the girls' side of things, another great one with two teams really highly ranked in the state. We'll go over to Carl for that one.
Yeah, the first game of the day on that Saturday afternoon, Aquinas taking on Newport. And Newport has not faced one Section 5 team this year. So let's get right to the chase. For someone who's never seen them like Section 5 hasn't this year, how would you describe this Newport team?
They've had 3 losses all year. Every loss that they've had was against a AA school. They lost to Clarence, Ken West, Williamsville North. 2 of the 3 that you probably hear as perennial people that are tough to beat, period. This is a team, again, that is a true team out here. They're going to be led by Eliza Whitehead, who averages 19.73 points per game. But I'll tell you, the star that got him here, that got them there in the crossover game was Emily Mountain. Emily Mountain, 11.59 points per game, 7 assists per game, 7 rebounds per game. She does a lot from that point guard position. She really helps that team, puts it on her back, and will do everything she can for a win. Alyssa Hours, another one. Casey Fetzner's another one. You got to add Junie Shuey, Emma Steimer. You're talking about there are 6 players that we could be talking about at any point that could be a player of the game for Lewiston Porter. And that, to me, is you don't hear a lot. Like sometimes we'll hear 4, maybe even the 5th out there. But this is where you even have to worry about a bench player that's going to come off here and to have some damage in this game and be able to put points up on the board.
I mean, and talking about their resume this year, they beat Lancaster by 15, like the AAA rep this year. So and Lancaster's obviously a really darn good team led by Maddie Francis. So this isn't a single A team that's just here taking care of their classification. No, they can clearly punch above their weight class as well. But I do want to touch on the fact that this is a bit of an older team compared against Aquinas, who is led by some freshmen, a couple sophomores. Like this is the tale of experience versus we don't know no better, so we're going to give it our best shot. I guess, how is that experience shown throughout this year?
I think you go to the last game, it says it all. Amherst, that they just played to be in the crossover game, started an 8th grader, a 9th grader, and a 10th grader, and those were their 3 top scorers right there. So it says it all right there in that game. They've seen it. They have absolutely experienced it already and just did it in the last game. They can play so many different styles with you. And then to top it off, Carl, what you can look at here, not only do they have so much experience, But there are multiple players on this team that had older sisters that went through to a team that's already gone through years and years of success. So I'm telling you right now, this team will be ready to go. I'm not saying that, you know what I mean, that's it's a win. They will be ready. They are very well coached by Coach Brian Hall. And I really think this should be a fantastic game that everybody should be circling right now on their calendar and go see.
Definitely. When I was looking through it, I'm like, yo, this game might be like the game of the weekend. But one last thing I do want to touch on. Usually the phrase is, oh, you're playing your best ball going into the tournament. Like, oh, I'm on like a 6 or 7 game winning streak. They lost 3 out of 5 heading into the tournament. Now, their Lancaster win was sprinkled in there, but were there injuries going on there, bad matchups, or they just just flipped the switch when playoff ball came around?
No, so what I think it was obviously is the Ken West loss, which they lost in the NFL championship game, their league championship. They've got a star player at Ken West on that team. That it was we actually broadcast the first time they played, and it was a fantastic game that came down to the very end. So this was a team that was ready to take on them, ready to come with a win. They've got a player that's already going off to end trip at Ken West. I just really think it was the right time, right place type of thing when Ken West comes up with that big win against Lewiston Porter. And again, like we said, Will North is a AA school. I really think what they were trying to do, especially towards the playoffs there, was just challenge this team and to get them ready for what they knew was going to be a very good run. And they needed to make sure they saw some of the best if they had any aspirations of going on for a state title.
Should be a good one Saturday at noon. Aquinas 5th in the state, Newport 6th. Now, we were able to kind of dive into the big school matchups. However, there's a lot of fun games, a lot of fun players in Class B and Class C and Class D. Tom, is there any player or team that really you've been watching throughout the season in some of these smaller schools that people over here in Rochester should really know about heading into this regional round weekend?
One name you've got to look at on the boys' side is from Salamanca, Lucas Brown. He's a perennial all-state player. He was also on the football team, was one of the wide receivers on the football team, if you remember, that also got a chance to come out of Section 6. He is one of the top basketball players, not only here locally, but in New York State. He really is something to watch. He's a guard and will want the ball in his hands at all times. And there's a reason for it. He's that good and can do some special things with the ball. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one. Salamanca and Avon, a rematch of, I believe, the two schools played in 2022. That was a great game as well. Should be another good one at Buffalo State. So we got a lot of great matchups, a lot of great games, a lot of great players this weekend. Any last words, Tom, before we let you go here and get ready for all of the games you've got to broadcast this week?
You got to get excited. You really do. This is the time of the year from sectionals all the way to the state championship. You have to be excited. There is no mistakes at this point. Good teams are all left here. Now is the time to get excited, folks, because we are going to see some fantastic basketball over the next couple days.
Certainly indeed. Tom Prince from WNY Athletics. Once again, thank you for coming on the show, sharing some wisdom with the people. Good luck to all your games and good luck to all the kids out there this weekend.
I appreciate you having me again, guys. Thanks again.
And once again, we want to thank Tom from WNY Athletics for coming on to the podcast. Always insight, analysis. We were scheduling this interview and talking beforehand, like this isn't even his full-time job. He's got a 9 to 5 that we had to schedule around, work things around. But man, the dedication, the hard work that goes into those fellows over at WNY Athletics really just stands out. They do such a great job over there covering Section 6 sports.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, everything. Talking about AAU teammates. I mean, he know everything. I'm like, how you know Mallory Heiss is AAU teammate? But that goes to show you his dedication and how knowledgeable he is about Section 6 sports over there. Great teams. Hopefully, we get some great games as well over at Buff State and then at Finger Lakes Community College. Because on paper, it looked like we're in for a treat for sure.
Yeah, so those games, those boys' games will be happening at Buffalo State College. However, kind of a little bit down the road, we got some great hockey matchups as well. The state Final Four, the Frozen Four, both Section 5 sectional champions made it to the Final Four in Division I, you've got McQuaid. They took down Ithaca 2-1 with 2 third-period goals. They're going to take on Orchard Park in the semifinal round. And then Batavia Notre Dame, they were down 2-1 in the third period, less than 2 minutes to go. Jamison Motika, he scores his second to send it to overtime. He gets his third in overtime to lift them to the state Final Four. They're going to take on top-ranked team in the state, Skinny Atlas, who beat Webster Thomas in the regional round. So we got 2 really great hockey teams that we've been following all throughout the season, and they both make it to the Frozen Four. And I don't think anybody would be too surprised if we have 2 teams playing on Sunday and Championship Sunday, or even winning it all at the end of the road.
Batavia Notre Dame United, they living in like some movie right now. I mean, back-to-back games, not buzzer beaters, overtime winners, a hat trick in this one. I mean, they out there just on cloud 9 right now. They obviously have a tough one with Skinny Atlas, who's looking to repeat. But I mean, I saw the hat trick thing. I'm like, let me get this straight, man. Y'all scoring a overtime winner at RT last week when y'all almost blew the lead, and then this week, Jamison Motika says, "Don't worry, I don't need no help. I got us." I mean, shout out to them, man. That's a bunch who is really excited after speaking with them after that win at RT 2 Mondays ago. But I'm excited for them for sure.
A fun weekend of hockey, a fun weekend of basketball. We'll be covering all the action on News 8 Friday and Saturday. And then next week, we got states for basketball in Albany and Glens Falls. We'll be trekking out there, of course, if teams make it their way. So next week on the podcast, I'm sure we'll have some sort of a state tournament preview. We'll bring on our friends from Empire State Takeover. We'll see what we can do on the boys' side of things, depending on what goes down. But it's almost the end of the road, Carl, and it's the best of the best now.
It be flying by. We talked about this ad nauseum, but winter sports really flies by, especially when we pick it up. Feel like we're in bill season. Oh, okay, high school sports is a thing. Oh, sectionals. Now we're raising bricks and the season's almost over with.
Yeah, I'll say this. It doesn't fly by when you're playing it. Coming from playing in New York basketball, those November, December, man, January comes around, you're like, man, I'm sick of taking 2 ibuprofens in the morning to get me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, well, thankfully, I don't got to take ibuprofens anymore. I don't got to worry about pain medicine to get out of bed. I'm just the one who holds the camera and tries to look pretty and make them look pretty on TV later on at night. But the shout out to all the boys and girls who've done their thing in all the sports, basketball, hockey, the list goes on and on. They did their things. Track and field did a phenomenal job this weekend as well. It was cool to see that, especially up close and personal this last weekend at Finger Lakes Community College.
Yeah, a handful of track and field state champions as well. They're going to make it really difficult for us to pick just 1 or 2 for our primetime elite awards. But we'll do our best when the time comes. That'll do it for us today on the High School Huddle. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, RochesterFirst.com, and YouTube. Once again, thank Tom Prince for coming on the show. We'll have recaps of all the regional games on next week's podcast. We'll preview the state championships for basketball. A whole lot of good stuff. The winter is coming to an end. We thank you for joining along the journey. We'll have on social media as well. We'll keep you up to date with how things go between me and Carl on our fantasy teams. But it's now time to break the huddle. For Carl Jones, I'm AJ Feldman. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we will see you next time.